All right. Hey, folks. I've recently seen quite a lot of mixed messages on social media. So I thought I would throw my hat in the ring in terms of just providing a clear message for you guys. Maybe not you guys, my audience. You're very loyal, you're very intelligent. But I think when there are a lot of confusing, dissenting voices out there in social media, it also helps to provide a bit of clarity, a bit of stability. And so that's what I'm about. I like being jacked. I want you guys to be jacked as well. I don't want to confuse you, and I don't want you to be confused. So hopefully this will provide some clarification, if not for you, then for people out there as another voice, but something that's providing a bit more of a stable, moderate middle ground of something that actually works. So we're going to talk volume today. Okay. We can talk intensity, frequency, another video if you want. Let me know. So let's talk volume. I want to talk about what I generally recommend, followed by times when I've done more and times when I've done less and what's happened. So this information about my recommendations is in my Hypertrophy Fundamentals playlist. So this is nothing new that I'm giving you here. This is just repeating a point and throwing it out there in the ring amongst the sea of many voices which contradict each other. So with all that said, let's cover my recommendations for what I think are a sensible, workable amount, not too much, not too little. Okay, now I'm going to firstly start off with sets per week, but I want to explain why I'm also going to give you sets per session, because that's useful to know. So sets per week, I would say 8 to 14 working sets per body part per week is a good standard. And that's assuming a frequency of, say, 2 or 3 times a week for body part. Okay, so if you're training on upper lower or a full body, total weekly volume should be about 8 to 14 sets per body part per week. Now, if you're training on, let's say, an asynchronous split, maybe a body part split where you're training everything once a week or once every 5 days, 3 times every 2 weeks, something like that, then I would say it's better to focus on sets per body part per session. And for that, I would recommend 6 to 8. 6 to 8 sets per body part per session if you are training less frequently than, say, twice a week. So currently right now I'm training 3 times every 2 weeks, and I'm doing about 6 to 8 sets per body part per session. Now, if you're training a body part once a week, I don't think it's a good idea to try and fit all your sets in. Okay. Now, not many people I know are training a body part once a week. It's fine. It's a fine approach. There's nothing wrong with that. I think where people go wrong with training a body part once a week is they try and do all the volume in that day. So they try and do 10 to 20 sets. I don't think that's a good idea. I think if you're training body part once a week, then just restrict yourself to 6 to 8 sets for that session. That's plenty. And that means your weekly volume is going to be low, but then that's the sacrifice you have for training a body part once a week. You clearly have reasons for training a body part once a week, so that's the compromise. But definitely don't make the mistake of trying to do double the volume in one session just because you're doing a bro split. Okay, so that's what I recommend. Roughly 8 to 14 sets per body part per week, assuming a frequency of 2 or 3 times. If you're training less frequently than that, then focus on sets per session, and I would recommend 6 to 8 sets per body part per session. Voila. So hopefully that has helped to provide a more moderate stance. This kind of thing works. And I'm going to just talk to you a bit about what the problems are with going too high and going too low, just to give you my experience. Okay, just to give you my honest experience. This is things that I've personally tried. So you might disagree with me, but it's my personal experience. If you have your personal experience, great. We can agree to disagree. Everybody's different, right? But the purpose of this channel is to give you my perspective of things that I do which work for me, but also my clients. And hopefully it's going to warn you off wasting your time. That's the biggest thing. We don't have time you can't get back. Money you can earn, but time you can't get back. So this is also why coaching is so important. Links in the description. Get with a good coach, namely me. And that's going to save you time. But anyway, to move on to times when I've done more volume than that. Because there have been times in recent history where I've experimented with higher volumes. Now, I'll say this up front. Higher volumes, at the moment, depending on who you listen to, they're almost automatically associated with better gains. I've spoken to people in DMs who've said to me they want to hit MRV, like maximum recoverable volume. They want to hit that 20 sets, 24 sets, whatever it is, right? And they automatically assume more is better. And I want to just talk to you about that. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I know that's something which has been drilled into people's heads. And I know for you guys, that's going to seem blasphemous. Well, maybe not for you guys, but for certain people out there, that kind of thought process seems blasphemous. Like, really, there are people out there who think if I say more volume doesn't equal more gains, some people who I've spoken to will just think that's just foreign thinking. That'll be like if I said 1 + 1 = 5. It would be as crazy as that. Seriously, there are people out there who believe unequivocally more is better, as long as you can recover from it. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. Not anymore. I've experimented with more volume. I've experimented with less volume. I've had just as good gains once my volume reaches an appropriate point. Like going from, say, 14 sets to 24 sets didn't accelerate my gains. Even in the short term, I still carried on gaining at a reasonable rate. I didn't get more growth from doing more. And that's the first thing to note. So what are the downsides? Because you might say to me, you know what, Faz, I like working out, so who cares? That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair. If you like working out, cool. But I went through this as well, where I did more because I like working out. So I was training with about 24 sets per body part per week. Not too long ago, actually, a couple of years ago. I did it as an experiment. I didn't get any of my clients to do it because that would be irresponsible, but I did it for myself as an experiment over the course of 6 months. I will be talking about that in another video at some point. Now, that had the net effect of causing quite a lot of shoulder issues and elbow issues. Over the course of time, I saw it and I put 2 and 2 together and I stopped, but I was able to progress. Now, I'm not saying I was able to progress any faster than doing more moderate routines, but I was able to progress. I was progressing on 24 sets, pretty much the same as I was progressing on 14 sets. There was no real difference there. So this idea that more automatically equals better, it doesn't hold up in my experience. That is once you get to a certain point of acceptable volume. Now, what I was getting above and beyond that was a lot more aches and pains, which eventually caused me to have to stop what I was doing. 2 points there about training much more than what I recommend for me. And again, you might disagree, but you guys are all very sensible and moderate, but I just wanted to throw my voice out there amongst all the rest of the voices. So hopefully with somebody listening, this will strike a chord if they're a bit confused about what to do. I don't believe more is unequivocally better. I think at a certain point, your gains are pretty good, but you have to get to that certain point. Anything above and beyond that is just the same amount of gains. I don't buy this concept of more is better. But I also think what you are going to do is you're going to run into recovery problems, not of the muscle. I'm an advanced guy. My nutrition's on point, my training's on point, my sleep is on point, my digestion's on point, everything's on point. So I'm not running out of recovery for my muscles. My muscles recover just fine. I'm able to do that. But my joints, my tendons, that was the problem. So I was running into joint problems, elbow issues, tendon issues. And this wasn't something that came up overnight either. It was something that came up months and months down the road. We're talking well over 6 months, 8 months, 10 months down the road. Bear in mind, I'm lifting some pretty decent weight. So I'm sure you can get away with this if you're a beginner, early intermediate. But when it matters, that's when I think we have a problem. And also equally, it's not like I was doing a lot of very heavy variations. I wasn't doing low bar squats, deadlifts, and flat benches. I was doing very specific biased exercises, trying to deleverage myself, use less weight rather than use more weight. But even then, I was getting ligament and tendon issues. So that was the downside of going too high in volume. Wasn't getting any more gains, was just getting a lot more pain. Now, there's a downside also to going too low, okay? Because I don't want you guys to conflate too high with just automatically going really low. Again, I know my audience is a lot more intelligent than that, but some people out there, if you tell them high volume is rubbish, they'll immediately pipe up with, yeah, that's why low volume is good. No, dumbass. That's not what I'm saying, right? There is a happy medium, Goldilocks and 3 bears kind of thing. So I haven't done super low volume for a long time. Like we're talking 20 years because I proved to myself 20 years ago, it just doesn't work for me. Actually, no, tell a lie. I did do low volume a few years back. I tried a bit of DC training and I almost immediately got hurt. Not good for me. But anyway, about 20 or so years ago, I was doing roughly 6 sets per body part per week. That got me a certain way alongside bulking, youth, very aggressive training. But at a certain point, I hit a stone wall. And I was at that wall for probably a year. It took me a long time to realize I needed more volume. So there is too little, where you get no gains, maybe some gains up to a point, you hit a wall. And for some people, low volume does work because they're just not that advanced yet. At a certain point, the low volume will stop working because you need more. It just makes sense. Too high, on the other hand, usually results in aches and pains. So think of volume as a lever you pull for more or less stress. Intensity, I think, cannot be argued with. You should go all out. I think this is what I've always recommended. Go all out. I am aware that RAR and RPE approaches do work, okay? But they work within the confines of that type of routine. That is not what I'm about. Most of my clients don't have the time necessary to devote to doing those kind of routines appropriately. Most of my clients want bang for the buck. And bang for the buck for me means training as hard as possible and arranging the rest of the routine to allow you to focus on the one thing that really matters, which is intensity, super high, and adequate volume. Not too much, not too little. I guess that's two things. So think of volume as a lever you pull. More stress, less stress. The stress needs to be a certain amount that you're going to gain, but not too much that you're going to start to break down your joints, your ligaments, and your tendons. It won't be your muscles. It'll be your joints, ligaments, and tendons. This is why beginner and early intermediate clients can get away with super high volume, super low volumes. Super low because anything works. Super high because they're not lifting weight heavy enough to make a difference. You get what I'm saying? So when these things matter, that's when you need to really pay attention to volume. So when somebody says to me, oh, high volume work for me, but if they squat 2 plates, who cares? You have to understand this stuff matters when it matters. So there is a Goldilocks zone. And as I've always said, it's about 10 to 14 sets, but take those sets as hard as you can go. All of this information is consistent with my hypertrophy playlist, and it's all on there. But I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and just give you a bit more information on that today. So a few important concepts we've covered today. Firstly, what is, I think, optimal volume? Then what are the consequences of low volume? What are the consequences of high volume? And also how to visualize volume. It's a lever. Intensity is the number one factor. Go hard. David Goggins clip. But volume is a lever, up and down. Okay. Folks, hopefully that provided some clarity amongst the sea of voices out there. That's my only goal. I like being jacked. I want you guys to be jacked too. I think it's the best thing in life. Let's all get jacked. Let's worry less about who's right, who's wrong, social media, all that kind of crap. Let's just all get yoked.